The storm roared outside the window when she appeared. "Mommy? Daddy? Why aren't you sleeping?" But the problem was, their daughter had died 3 months ago, and a second later, her body began to crumble into a swarm of ravens. The sky above Michael and Lauren's suburban house erupted with thunder. The booming strikes echoed through the surroundings, and the rain lashed against the roof as if invisible fingers were relentlessly drumming on the shingles. Flashes of lightning tore through the night, their bursts illuminating the silhouettes of trees, whose branches twisted like hands writhing in agony. The wind howled as it snaked between the walls of the house, its wailing resembling a long, drawn-out sob. Michael sat in his chair, nervously drumming his fingers on the armrest. In the glow of the desk lamp, his shadow cast strange, distorted shapes on the walls, shapes that resembled faceless figures. He inhaled deeply, trying to steady himself, but each rumble of thunder only made his muscles tense further. Lauren, standing by the window, hurriedly shut the shutters, feeling as if the storm threatened to tear through the thin barrier of their home. Every gust of wind, every sharp patter of raindrops against the glass felt like a warning, like something was wrong. Then came a dull knock. She froze. The knock came again, clear, rhythmic, but the sound was coming from upstairs. Lauren's heart clenched, and holding her breath, she slowly lifted her gaze. In the bedroom window, behind the glass, a raven was perched. A bolt of lightning split the sky, and for a brief moment, the bird appeared in all its eerie presence. Ruffled feathers, talons splayed wide, but the most terrifying part, its eyes. Eyes that didn't reflect the light but seemed to devour it instead. There was nothing animal in them, only a chilling awareness. It kept knocking with its beak, striking the glass over and over as if desperately trying to get inside. "This isn't normal," Lauren whispered, slowly stepping backward. "It's just a bird," Michael scoffed, but his voice wavered. The storm must have scared it, but the moment he spoke those words, the raven froze. It didn't fly away, didn't turn its head, didn't blink. It just remained motionless, staring fearlessly into the house. And then, the window began to open, on its own. Lauren felt something cold and unseen seep into the house. Lauren screamed and bolted for the door, instinctively trying to get as far away as possible from the window where the raven had just been. But the moment she took a step, the lights in the house went out. A flash of lightning illuminated the room for a split second, and in that brief burst, the glass was empty. Bang! A sharp noise made Lauren flinch. The window had slammed shut. The wind was gone, as if someone had sealed the room. "This is impossible," Michael muttered. His voice was quiet, but in the suffocating silence, it sounded far too loud. Cold crept into the room, slithering across their skin like icy fingers. Michael shuddered. For a moment, he could have sworn someone had touched him, yet no one was there. And then they heard it. A rustling. Faint, barely noticeable, but definitely not the wind. Someone was inside the house. Lauren froze, paralyzed by the creeping terror. Blood pounded in her ears, but beyond that, she could hear something else. Footsteps. Soft, slow, cautious. Someone was moving through the hallway, creeping through the darkness. It's just the wind." Michael tried to steady his voice, but it trembled. And then the footsteps changed. They grew louder, clearer. There was no doubt anymore. Someone was coming down the stairs. Lauren pressed a hand to her mouth, suppressing a sob. Her eyes were fixed on the darkened hallway beyond the door. The shadows thickened, and then, from the darkness, a figure emerged. Lauren didn't breathe. Michael didn't move, because standing before them was their daughter. Emma. She looked exactly as she had the last time they saw her. Long, light brown hair, a nightgown dotted with tiny stars, bare feet. Except her skin was too pale, too cold. And here was the problem. Emma had died 3 months ago. Lauren froze. Her heart pounded so violently it felt like it would burst. Before her stood a little girl. The same pajamas, the same neatly braided hair, one that Lauren had woven the night before the tragedy. But this was impossible. "Mommy? Daddy? Why aren't you sleeping?" Her voice. It was exactly the same as that day. The day they were still a family. The day she was still alive. But this wasn't Emma. Michael felt it in his bones. He grabbed his wife's arm suddenly, gripping her as if that alone could hold her back. "That's not her, Lauren. Don't go near it." But Lauren didn't hear him. Tears burned down her face, blurring her vision. Her chest clenched so tightly she could barely breathe. Emma. Her Emma. She took a step forward. Her hand trembled, but it reached out, believing, hoping, pleading. "Emma, is it really you?" Silence. And then their daughter's voice changed. It deepened, grew colder. "You left me, Mommy." Pain. A violent, searing explosion inside her skull, like 1,000 burning needles piercing straight into her brain. She screamed, clutching her temples, collapsing to her knees. Sounds, whispers, thousands of voices. They slithered into her mind, murmuring horrors from the depths, from something ancient and ravenous. Lauren screamed. Michael, pushing past his fear, lunged for his wife, wrapping his arms around her, pulling her back, feeling how her body trembled, how she convulsed in unbearable agony. He looked up. The figure before him was no longer their daughter. Its face twisted, lips stretching into something that resembled a smile, only too wide. Too wrong. Its skin turned a lifeless, ashen gray, and its eyes became an abyss of black. Not a child's eyes, not Emma's eyes. The wind roared, wild and unrelenting, like a beast unleashed. Bang! Michael flinched. He saw it, at the window, the raven, watching. And in that moment, Michael understood. This was no ordinary spirit. This was a curse. A memory ignited in Michael's mind. That day, the day their world collapsed. He remembers finding a black feather near Emma's body. Back then, he thought nothing of it. Just a bird. Just a coincidence. But now, everything fell into place. The raven. It was there then, and it was here now. "Lauren, that's not Emma! It's the raven! It's cursed!" he shouted, his voice breaking with panic. Lauren froze, her face twisted with pain and realization. "No, that can't be." But Emma was already laughing, a low, rasping chuckle, hollow, unnatural. "You figured it out too late, Daddy." And at that moment, her body began to break. Not just vanish, collapse, as if something inside her was tearing her apart. From the rupturing flesh, wings burst forth. They clawed their way out, feathers spilling into the air, and in the next instant, she was no longer a girl, a swarm of ravens. Black shadows exploded through the house, screeching, their wings battering the walls, claws scraping against the wood, their piercing caws merging into a nightmarish chorus. The wind howled with such force that the windows rattled in their frames. Dust rained from the ceiling, and the curtains whipped wildly, as if desperate to flee. And then, everything went silent, in an instant, as if nothing had happened. as if the horror had simply evaporated. But it hadn't left. It had only gone quiet. Michael and Lauren stood in absolute stillness. Only the tapping of the rain reminded them they were still alive. Lauren clutched her face, her shoulders shaking. It wasn't Emma. But what was it? Michael slowly turned his head. His gaze drifted toward the window. The raven was gone. But on the floor, amid the dust and shattered glass, lay a single black feather. Michael picked it up. It was warm to the touch. The final note. A crack. A door slamming shut. They were not alone.